Hi friends, this is a sermon called The Still Small Voice of Marilyn, and it is based on 1 Kings chapter 19, which is the story of Elijah in the wilderness, and it is being preached at Faith United Church in Hamilton and Yellowknife United Church in the Northwest Territories on June the 22nd, 2025. Elijah, he's in the wilderness and he's hiding from King Ahab, from Queen Jezebel, from his job, and from the world. And you can hardly blame him when you hear the backstory. Elijah, you see, is a prophet under the rule of King Ahab of Judah. And in those days, when the kings were ruling over Israel, prophets had a specific job, which was to attune the king and the people to that which Yahweh speaks and desires. In other words, to orient them all towards God. And this required the prophets to speak truth to power, to be the voice of God to the king, so that the king could rule faithfully. For the king is actually considered to be Yahweh's servant on earth. It was the prophets who anointed the kings to do their duty, and their load as prophets was very heavy. King Ahab, in particular, not an easy king to serve. Most people blame his wife for this. It's always the woman's fault, I think. In the Bible, we know this by now. And it is true that Queen Jezebel was some piece of work. She poses a very big problem for Elijah because Jezebel worships the fertility god Baal and all of his idols rather than Yahweh, the God of Israel, the God that Ahab is supposed to be representing. But Ahab is bewitched by this beautiful wife of his, and he wants so desperately to please her. So he builds altars to Baal and he carves idols for her to worship, and he's just generally creating sin and messes all over the place. And not only is Jezebel turning Ahab away from Yahweh, which is a big enough problem on its own, but all of this idol worship is corrupting the people too. And it is a mess. There is a drought, which Elijah predicts. And then there is this amazing epic showdown on Mount Carmel between Ahab and his 450 priests of the fertility god Baal. And they go head to head with Elijah and his 100 prophets of Israel. This is an amazing story, and I commend 1 Kings chapter 18 to your reading. But basically, the backstory is this. There is this contest to get the real God to answer prayers by starting a fire. And the priests of Baal yell and scream and do all these dances, and they receive no answer at all. And then Elijah, who is, yes, kind of a smartass, soaks his little pile of wood with water, actually like a lot of water, and then stands there silently and then whispers to Yahweh, like just the smallest, tiniest action. And this huge fire appears, and it's so big that it threatens to consume them all. And Elijah and his prophets slaughter the 450 priests of Baal, which ends in Jezebel threatening to kill Elijah and Elijah running for his life. God, I love the Hebrew Bible. Definitely read this story. But this is the whole backstory to the present moment where we meet Elijah in our story today, hiding out in the desert at Beersheba. The author of Kings could not have painted a more pathetic picture in contrast to the victory just a chapter earlier. Elijah is sitting dejected under a solitary broom tree, the only bit of shade and shelter for miles, and he's just wishing that his whole life would go away. This job he's been given to be a prophet in the court of this king is too much. There's too much weight on his shoulders. There's too many idol-worshiping priests to slay, too many wicked queens to dodge, too steep a hill to climb in order to do his job and serve Yahweh properly. He can't keep up the pace. He'll never make it, he figures, so why bother? It is enough now, O Lord, our prophet cries. Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors. In other words, kill me now. Stick a fork in me, please, God. I'm done. Oh, Elijah, I feel you, brother, because we have all had these days. Maybe not so much from, escaping the wrath of a murderous queen, but we as well have known the crushing feeling of too much weight, of wanting to run far, far away, maybe to the woods, or maybe even another planet. My personal fantasy is a convent, actually specifically a convent in St. Albert, Alberta, where the rooms are so sparse and beautiful. They have just like a single bed and a sink and a fantastic view that is green, and your cell phone doesn't work and nobody is talking ever. I just want to run there sometimes. Sometimes, like Elijah, it's our jobs that stress us out. And sometimes it's our kids or our partners or our parents or our families. The albatross of current events, reading the newspaper, the unrelenting grip of mental illness or physical illness or grief or loss, a sudden diagnosis or a major life change, or simply the rugged terrain of daily existence. We, like Elijah, know chaos. We know anxiety and worry. We recognize Elijah's elevated heart rate, his racing thoughts, the distorted cognitive loops circling around and around in his brain as he considers his situation and what on earth he can do about it. We've been jolted awake at 4 a.m. We know what it feels like under that broom tree. The stuff of chaos looks different for everyone, but we have all wanted to run to escape its grasp. For me, these days, chaos doesn't look like a priest slaying sword, but an emery board, cheap cardboard nail files. I've been living with my mom these last couple of weeks because my dad is in the hospital after a fall. And he's going to be okay, thank heavens. He's making a slow and steady recovery, but mom has dementia and she needs someone to look after her. And if you have dealt with the care of an elder yourself, you certainly do not need me to explain to you very vividly how chaotic my life is right now. My mom loves to file her nails. She cannot abide a jagged edge on her fingernail or a hangnail, but memory loss renders her unable to keep track of these nail files. And so that means they are everywhere. Everywhere I look, beside every chair, every table, 3 deep in her purse, in the car, nail files, nail files, nail files. I'm scanning Costco for a jumbo pack. They are the symbol of chaos that has broken out in my family's life the minute that phone rang a couple of weeks ago. It is nail files times 1,000. Something is always out of place or mixed up. She needs my help with almost everything. It is an exercise in endless patience, requiring bottomless compassion and often yielding guilty feelings of frustration. When you are the primary caregiver of someone with dementia, you never know what life is going to throw at you from one minute to the next. And no matter how much we love our people, I love my mom more than anything in the world, there are moments when it seems like too much. I miss my family, I miss my job, I miss my friends and my ordinary life. My ordinary life, which was mine to squander just a few short days ago. And there are times when I wonder just how I'm going to cope with the weight on my shoulders. Or maybe if there is a tree somewhere out there in the wilderness that I could just hide under. Back under the Beersheba broom tree of despair, God answers Elijah's prayers by doing a few things. 3 things, actually. The first thing, an angel appears after Elijah drifts off into a fitful sleep, and the angel taps our buddy on the shoulder and offers a jar of water and a cake baked on hot stones. He eats and drinks. The angel says, "Take this and eat, or the journey will be too much for you." Elijah goes back to sleep, and the angel taps him on the shoulder again, and he eats and drinks, and the angel says again, "Take this and eat, or the journey will be too much for you." So the next time Elijah wakes, he rises and he walks. And this is the second thing that God does. He sends Elijah on a walk to a sacred place. Because of the magic angel food cake, Elijah is strong enough to walk 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Horeb, slowly, steadily. Mount Horeb is the same mountain that has been made famous in the past by Moses. And these might seem like strange cures to Elijah's despair, a little bread and a 40-day walk in the desert. But how many of us have been recipients of food from friends during rough times? Those casseroles, those pies, those frozen muffins, those are magic, are they not? And how many of us have known the restorative power of just going for a walk in the woods, going back to nature to clear our heads? These are the first 2 gifts that God gives of hope and strength and the power to move forward. The third thing that happens is that Elijah has a conversation with God. And again, he proclaims the depths of his hopelessness. "Spare me, O God, take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors." And this time, there is no angel, just the instruction from God to stand on the mountain and listen and wait. And God says to Elijah, "Yahweh is about to pass by." And the prophet figures he could really use a direct encounter with God right now to energize him, so he waits eagerly with anticipation. And there is this series of loud, energetic, chaotic events, so dramatic that Elijah is certain that this must be the divine. First, there is a great wind. It is so strong that it splits rocks and mountains into pieces, but God is not in the wind. And then there is an earthquake, so strong it shakes Elijah off his feet. But God is not in the earthquake either. And then after the earthquake, a fire, but God is not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of sheer silence, a still, small voice, quiet, peace, calm. And Elijah looks up and feels it and knows. And into the silence, a still, small voice speaks. "What do you need, Elijah?" And for the final time, Elijah confesses his desperation. And for the final time, Yahweh gives instructions. "Elijah, go back. Go back. Anoint a new king. Enlist a new prophet, a man named Elisha, to help you. You will be okay. There are 7,000 of my followers still in Judah, and I will keep them safe. And you can start again, and it is going to be okay. You know how to do this. One small step at a time. You are strong." Into the struggle speaks the still, small voice of God, seeing Elijah's pain, speaking words of reassurance, sending angels, and sending helpers. God is not in the chaos. God is in the calm. When Dad first went into the hospital, I noticed the same three things happening. First thing, the food. A congregation of angels brought me frozen meat pies and banana muffins, and my kitchen was full, and so was my heart. My parents' friends and my friends appeared with visits like magic, bringing things to eat, a community rising up around us to help. And that food gave me strength, just like Elijah, for the next step, the second thing, which is that my mom and I started going for a lot of walks together. A lot of really, really slow walks. It is, in some ways, like my life, as chaotic as it is, has slowed down to a snail's pace. In contrast to the whirling dervish of chaos and nail files that I feel on a daily basis, the endless phone calls to caregiving agencies, the parking lot garage roulette at the hospital, Tetris-style scheduling, squeezing my work into 40-minute increments because that's how long an episode of Murdoch Mysteries lasts. I've rarely been this exhausted, as any of you who have cared for parents can attest. But the walks, they slow me down. They reorient me. They force me to move at my mom's speed rather than the speed of my anxiety. And I see things differently when it's just the two of us out walking. Without the distractions of my laptop or the phone or my chores, I listen more attentively, which allows me to hear the third thing, the sound of my mother's voice. Singing, actually. Now listen. My mother would be the first to admit that she cannot sing, like at all. She's never been able to carry a tune in a bucket. She has great rhythm, but no pitch whatsoever. And she was always sort of self-conscious of this, but amazingly, dementia has freed her still small voice. She has the softest voice you've ever heard, but she sings. She has this amazing memory for song lyrics. And so now every time we get in the car or have a break and need to fill a few minutes, we put on our 50s and 60s playlists or our church hymns and we sing together. It's amazing, actually, to sing with her and to listen to her voice. And the other day, when I was feeling absolutely bottomed out, scattered and frantic and sitting in traffic, I heard this. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. My mom sang, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. The still, small voice of my mother, Marilyn. In the midst of chaos, it is so tempting to just keep moving faster and faster and faster to try and keep up, to try and outrun the storm, or simply just to give up. Elijah in the desert, encountering the still small voice, teaches us to slow down and to notice what God is doing in the background of our storm. When the chaos and the clutter of our lives threatens to overwhelm us, God hears our prayers and answers in love, not by removing the painful things. That's not how this works. God doesn't slay our terrible bosses with swords or cure Alzheimer's or abolish cancer or stop any of the rough things that cause chaos in our lives. What God does is send angels with casseroles. God gets us up for a walk. God speaks into the silence. And amid the nail files of our despair, God begs us not to give up, for the divine walks beside us and feeds us and speaks to us always. So whatever, my friends, whatever you face this day, whatever wilderness you find yourselves in, whatever storms you are facing, yesterday or today or tomorrow, this grace, this message is for you. The healing balm of God's still small voice is yours. So take a bite of angel food, to go for a walk, listen, and just know that God is with you every step of the way. Amen.